As I was turning 16, my life shattered like a broken mirror. They had left a note on the kitchen counter. Save yourself. Just 2 words. But those 2 words became the cruelest farewell of my life. My family had moved thousands of miles away, leaving me in an empty house with an indescribable wound in my heart. The only question echoing in my mind was, what did I do wrong? It was as if I had an invisible flaw, an inexplicable mistake that drove them away from me. Maybe they just got tired of pretending to love me, I thought. But the truth was, they had never even pretended. When I was 12, I still can't forget the cold look in my mother's eyes when she called the cake I had childishly made for her birthday with my own hands too sweet. At that moment, I felt a part of my tiny heart break. When I was 14, helping my brother with his school projects, he called me know-it-all and slammed his bedroom door in my face, that violent sound echoing in my ears as if whispering that I was nothing. A year later, when I was 15, I gave all the money from my first part-time job to my father to help him pay his debts, and then he called me useless and scolded me. I realized that I was just a tool. I was always useful but never loved. Perhaps you too have experienced moments in your life where you felt used. Feel free to share with me in the comments. Know that you are not alone. After a week, I found out I was evicted by the landlord. They had terminated the lease early. I only had a few days. Not knowing where to go, I slept at a friend's refuge for the first 3 nights. Every morning when I woke up, with the smell of old belongings, of forgotten memories on me, I wished for a moment to forget where I was. Then reality would hit me like a slap in the face, a lump in my throat. I had no place left to go. Eventually, I started sleeping among the items in the back of a damp, musty storage unit I rented with my last few pennies. At night, under the darkness that enveloped the city, I would secretly sneak into a public bath and shower with icy cold water, biting into an energy bar with trembling hands, forcing it down my throat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I applied for jobs on the library's dimly lit, free computers, pretending everything was fine. My cold, impoverished, and lonely existence closed me off a little more each day. It was as if the outside world had long forgotten and discarded me. Can you imagine what a young girl so alone at that age must have felt? If you have also experienced this feeling, you can support me by liking this video. Finally, life opened a door for me. I was hired as a waitress at a diner one night. The manager, though outwardly gruff, was actually a fair man. He paid me cash under the table until I could get my official documents. Once, at the end of what seemed like endless shifts, when I was about to faint from exhaustion, he let me sleep in the break room. As my legs throbbed with pain, I'd question if there was an end to that day. But each time, a small voice inside me whispered not to give up. I tried to hold on to life with my fingernails. I bought myself a simple cell phone with the money I had painstakingly saved. I kept every receipt I received as if it were a treasure. I spent my nights watching videos on personal finance and goal setting with free online courses. The first year, I barely survived. Every day was a miracle. But I made it. The turning point came when a regular at the diner offered me a temporary office job. This job paid 3 times what I earned as a waitress. My eyes widened and I immediately accepted. That job led to another, then another. I learned quickly, went to work early, questioned everything, was curious, asked questions. By the time I was 21, I was working full-time freelance. At 24, I started a tiny consulting firm with just me, a simple folding table, and a borrowed laptop. It was such a primitive start, but my dreams were big. At 26, I had 5 contracted employees, my own office, and a client list of companies I used to only dream of. When my client list started to include the brands that used to fill my dreams, I felt somewhere deep inside that the old, scared little girl was slowly shedding her skin. And by the time I turned 28, dear friends, I was officially a millionaire. Not a fake social media figure, not a pretending celebrity, a real millionaire. I had savings in my retirement account, not a single penny of debt. I had paid off my apartment, and I could afford health insurance. The first time I saw the 7-figure number on my banking app, I sat there sobbing. Those tears were not just for the money, but an outpouring of all my pain, loneliness, and triumph up to that point. When did you feel your greatest achievement in life? Join in this celebration by liking this video and sharing your story in the comments, because success should not be experienced alone. Throughout those difficult years, my family never reached out to me once. One time, I saw my brother's profile on a social media platform. He was married, still living in the distant area they had moved to. I stared at the screen for a long time, words caught in my throat. Had he told his wife about me? Had he said I ran away? Or had he completely ignored me? This question kept echoing in my mind. Sometimes I still wonder if it would be easier to hate them, not to feel this pain. But to be honest, it was never hatred. These were the broken pieces of my heart. Now I go to therapy because I don't want to fall apart. I don't want to be hurt anymore. I won't let the shadow of the past swallow me. I made a list of people who saved me unconditionally. Yes, you heard that right. Angels who extended a hand to me in my toughest times, without any expectation. Coworkers, classmates, and strangers who showed me what true support should look like. They became my real family. Who are the angels in your life? Share their story in the comments, because kindness is contagious. Last week, an online interview I did about my family estrangement story absolutely exploded. It reached 1 million views in 4 days. My inbox was overflowing with messages of support, gratitude, and strangers saying, "You gave voice to our pain." Every line was a balm to the wounds inside me. Then an email caught my eye. The subject line read, "You're our daughter." It was from my mother. There was no apology, just a cold, distant paragraph stating she had heard my side, and perhaps we could talk. Then another message, this time from my brother. "We miss you so much. Can we fix this?" I stared at the screen for a long time, words caught in my throat, then I closed my laptop. I sat and thought about whether healing was about looking back or moving forward, which path was less painful. I didn't reply immediately because this was a big decision and I needed time to process it. My therapist, Alara, recommended waiting at least a week before making any decision. "Whatever you feel, give yourself space," she said in our session. "You don't need to rush to answer." So I did. I focused on work, went to the gym, had dinner with friends, outwardly normal things. But those emails wouldn't leave me alone. I'd open and read them, then close them again. In every line, the ghosts of the past would engulf me, leaving an endless echo in my mind. It was as if with every reading, I swung between a glimmer of hope and an abyss of disappointment. My mother's message was no different than a cold clinical letter, almost like reaching out to a distant acquaintance. My brother's message was shorter but felt more sincere somehow. I couldn't help but think about them. There was a strange knot in my heart. 10 days later, I decided to reply to my brother first. Just something simple. "It's been 11 years. What's changed?" I wrote. I hit send without overthinking it. His reply came within an hour. He said the online interview made them realize what they had done. He claimed he was only 14 when they left me, that he had no choice, that he always wondered about me, that he searched for me online a few times over the years, but never dared to reach out, and that seeing me successful made him proud. I hung on every word, weighing each one, trying to decipher the true intentions behind them. One part of me wanted to believe, while another part wanted me to protect myself from the pain of the past. I didn't fully believe it. If he was so concerned, why did he wait until I was publicly successful? I asked him exactly that. His next email was longer. He confessed their money was tight, that his parents' business had failed, that his wife was pregnant with their second child, and that medical bills were piling up. My stomach clenched. This was the real reason. Not an emotional plea, but entirely a financial expectation. I didn't reply for another week to digest this. Then my mother sent a follow-up email with old family photos attached. Photos of me as a baby, us on the beach when I was 4 or 5. Photos with Leo building a snowman. As I looked at each photo, my heart felt a sweet pang of longing and an indescribable emptiness. These memories didn't feel like my own. They were like ghosts of a life that was once mine. Below the email, it read, "We made a mistake. We want to make amends." I showed the emails to Alara in our next session. She reminded me that I was in control, that I could set boundaries, that I owed them nothing. But she also said that closure, whether it was reconciliation or a definitive goodbye, could help me move forward. I nodded, but conflicting emotions swirled inside me. One part of me wanted to tell them to go to hell, while another part wanted to understand why they abandoned me. And a tiny, foolish part of me still wanted them to love me. This cruel truth created a constant storm in my heart. I decided to meet my brother first, just him, without our parents. We arranged to meet at a cafe in a big city in the middle of the country. That morning I flew in, checked into a hotel, and tried to calm my nerves. An army of butterflies fluttered in my stomach, ready to give up and flee at any moment. But there was also the pain and hope of unraveling an 11-year knot, slowly peeling off a bandage. I thought about canceling 3 times, but at 2:30 in the afternoon, I walked into that cafe and saw him immediately. He was older, heavier, his hairline receding, but his eyes were the same. He stood up when he saw me, awkward and hesitant. I didn't hug him. We just sat across from each other with our coffees, like strangers. There was a wall of ice between us. The first 20 minutes were painful. Small talk about my flight, his drive, then he started to apologize. "Ava, I'm so sorry," Leo said, his voice cracking. "I was just a kid when it happened. I found out they were planning to leave you too late. I was too scared to stand up to them." I just listened, looking for signs of deception on his face. He seemed sincere, but I'd been fooled before. I asked the question that had haunted me for 11 years, that had gnawed at my mind. Why me? Why was I the one left behind? He looked down at his coffee. "They always saw you as the strong one, the independent one, the one who would be fine on your own. They thought you didn't need them as much as I did. They convinced themselves that they would be better off without you." It was the most absurd thing I had ever heard. How could parents abandon their own child like that? I told him about the storage unit, about eating energy bars for weeks, about showering in public baths, and about working night shifts at 16. His face crumpled. I didn't know, he whispered. They told me you had a plan, that you wanted to stay behind, that you would live with a friend's family, that you chose to leave us. It was all lies. Unbelievable. At the end of our meeting, I didn't know what to think. He genuinely seemed regretful. He showed me pictures of his wife and daughter, talked about his job as an accountant, asked about my work, and I was surprised he didn't ask for money directly. As we left, he hugged me. I allowed it, but I didn't reciprocate. I just stood there with my arms at my sides, feeling nothing. I was empty inside. When I got back to my hotel, I called Alara, telling her everything. She pointed out that while my brother seemed upset, he also portrayed himself as a victim, not fully accepting his role in leaving me. She was right. He was 14, not 4. He was old enough to make a phone call, send an email, check on me at some point in 11 years. That night, my mother called. I hadn't given her my number. Leo must have. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her voice was older, raspy. When I said hello, she started to cry, telling me how proud she was of me, how she always knew I would be successful, how special I was. I waited for her to finish talking. Then I asked her the same question I had asked my brother. Why me? Her answer was different. We were in debt. Ava, we couldn't feed 3 people. We knew you were smart enough to make it on your own. We thought you'd go to social services and be placed with a better family. We thought we were doing you a favor. They thought they were doing me a favor? How could throwing a vulnerable 16-year-old out on the street be a favor? I hung up on her, blocking her number immediately. I threw my phone across the room and screamed into a pillow. That scream was an outpouring of years of pain, betrayal, and loneliness. The next morning, an email came from my father, the first contact in 11 years. There was no apology. Instead, he wrote about how hard their lives had been, their medical bills and failed businesses, that Leo's wife needed surgery, that they were facing eviction. At the end, he asked me to help the family. Every word was like a dagger in my heart. After all these years, seeing that I was still just a tool, a wallet in their eyes, made me sick to my stomach. Not a single question about my life. Not a single acknowledgement of what they had done. I forwarded the email to Alara with the subject line, "Here it is." Even though it was Sunday, she called immediately. For an hour, we talked about boundaries, forgiveness, and reconciliation. The difference between helping someone and enabling them. The difference between what I actually wanted and what I thought I should want. This conversation cleared my mind, giving me an opportunity to clarify my own values and boundaries. By Monday morning, I had made my decision. I sent my brother an email saying I was glad we met, that I understood he was in a difficult position when he was young, that I was willing to have a relationship with him and his family, but I set clear boundaries. No money, no loans, no financial support of any kind, and no relationship with our parents until they took full responsibility for their actions. His reply was immediate and telling. "I'm really disappointed, Ava," he wrote. "Our parents really need help. Families should support each other. You're being selfish with your success." All the guilt buttons they had installed in me as a child were pressed at once. For a moment, I felt the fragility of that little girl abandoned years ago, anew. But I couldn't be manipulated so easily anymore. I didn't reply. Instead, I booked an appointment with Alara and a vacation to a tropical island. I needed space to process everything, to create a breathing room for myself. 3 days later, Leo called, leaving a voicemail apologizing for pressuring me, saying he understood my position, that he still wanted a relationship on my terms, and that he would respect my boundaries. I listened to it twice, trying to decide if he was sincere or just changing tactics. I decided to give him another chance, but without lowering my guard. Still, I went to the tropical island. I spent 2 weeks on the beach, hiking jungle trails, and meditating. Being surrounded by nature brought a calmness to my soul, giving me new perspectives. I needed the distance. When I returned, there were 6 more emails from my father, each more desperate than the last. I didn't read beyond the subject lines. It didn't affect me anymore. There was also a message from Leo, asking if we could talk again. I agreed to a phone call, nothing more. Perhaps you too have felt the need to distance yourself from toxic relationships in your life. You can support me by liking this video. The phone call started well. Leo apologized again for pressuring me. "I've thought a lot about what you told me," he said. "I'm going to therapy now too." I believed that part. He was less defensive. His voice sounded different. We talked about his kids, my work, normal things. Then he said our parents were coming to visit next week, asking if I would consider seeing them for just an hour in a public place. My chest tightened. My breath caught. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. Their shadow, no matter how far away I was, continued to suffocate me. "I'm not ready for that, Leo," I said. He pushed a little, but when I stayed silent, he backed off. After I hung up, I called Alara. We had an emergency session that night. She helped me understand that I was afraid to see them. Not because I hated them, but because I still sought their approval, still wanted them to love me. Still wanted to be enough. It was pathetic, but it was true. I cried in her office for an hour. Those tears expressed all the vulnerabilities I couldn't accept. The next day, Leo messaged again, saying our mother had cried all night after I told her I didn't want to see them, and our father was talking about driving to the city I was in. I panicked. I immediately blocked Leo's number. Then I called my assistant and told her I'd be working from home for the week, ordered groceries to be delivered, basically hid in my apartment like a scared child. That little, abandoned girl from years ago was hiding behind the door again. In the middle of the week, my apartment manager called, saying there was a couple looking for me. They didn't give their names. I immediately understood. I told him I wasn't accepting visitors. A few minutes later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I didn't answer. It went to voicemail. It was my father's angry voice. "Ava, we came a long way to see you. You're acting childish. We have a right to an explanation." I deleted the message and turned off my phone. The next morning, I froze in bed when my door was knocked on, my heart pounding. I looked through the peephole. It was them. My parents, standing in my hallway as if they had every right to be there. "Ava, please," my mother's voice was audible through the door. "We just want to talk to you. We know you're inside." My father added, "We love you. We're sorry." My heart was pounding in my ears. I was struggling to breathe. Every beat, every call, reawakened the nightmares of the past. I didn't open the door. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, trembling. Eventually, they left. I immediately called building security and told them not to let those people upstairs again. The security guard seemed concerned, asking if I wanted to call the police. "No," I said. "Just don't let them up." Then I called Alara. She came during her lunch break, brought me a sandwich, and sat with me while I cried, telling me I had every right to set boundaries, that I didn't owe them a meeting, that what they were doing was harassment, not reconciliation. These words brought relief within me. After she left, an email came from Leo. He was angry, saying I was humiliating our parents, that they were staying in a cheap motel because they couldn't afford anything else and were so desperate to see me that his wife needed surgery next month, and they hoped I would help, that I was being cruel. Every manipulative move tired me out even more, tearing out the last crumbs of hope inside me. I didn't reply. On the last workday of the week, I decided I needed to leave the city for a while. I was tired of hiding, of running. The only way to end this endless harassment was to confront them, no matter the cost. I booked a flight to visit my close friend Clara in another city. Clara was one of the people who helped me when I was homeless, letting me stay on her couch for a week when I had nowhere else to go. I trusted her completely. As I stuffed clothes into my suitcase, my phone rang, another unknown number. I ignored it. A few minutes later, my apartment manager called, saying there was a young woman downstairs with a small child who appeared to be having a medical issue, asking for me by name, claiming to be my sister-in-law. My stomach churned. I told him to call emergency services if she needed help, but I wouldn't be coming downstairs. He seemed uncomfortable, but agreed. I finished packing my things and an hour later went downstairs, carefully looking around the lobby. There was no sign of them. I was relieved, but also felt a strange guilt. As I passed, the apartment manager looked at me strangely, saying emergency services had arrived. The woman was having chest pains and had been taken to the central hospital. I nodded and hurried to my waiting car. At the airport, I got another call from Leo. I almost didn't answer, but something compelled me to pick up. "Mom had a heart attack," he sobbed. "She's in surgery. This is your fault. You stressed her out." My whole body went cold. My heart pounded as if it would burst through my ribcage. I hung up on him. Instead, I called Alara. She answered immediately. I told her what happened, asking if I was a terrible person. "Ava, listen to me," she said firmly. "You are not responsible for your mother's health. This sounds like another manipulation tactic. Get on your plane and take care of yourself." So I did. I spent the weekend with Clara, telling her everything. She remembered my family abandoning me. She remembered how broken I was. She was angry on my behalf. "They don't deserve a minute of your time after what they did to you," she said, pouring me another glass of wine. It felt good to have someone so firmly in my corner. As you watch this story, I hope you feel similar support. Join us by subscribing to my channel so we can move forward together on this journey. At the end of the weekend, an email came from my father. My mother was stable, had a stent, and would be discharged in a few days. The email ended, "She's asking about you. Don't you think you've punished us enough?" I showed it to Clara, who rolled her eyes so hard they almost got stuck, saying it was a typical guilt-tripping tactic. I knew she was right, but a part of me still felt responsible. At the beginning of the week, I flew home. I found flowers on my apartment door. The card read, "Please call us. We're staying at a hotel until tomorrow." There was no apology, no acknowledgement of boundaries, just another demand. I threw the flowers in the trash. The next morning, a message came from an unknown number. It was a picture of my mother in a hospital bed, looking pale and small. The message read, "She may not have much time left. Do you want to live with this regret?" I blocked the number. I called Alara. She suggested taking a break from social media, changing my number, even staying at a friend's place for a while. I agreed. I called my assistant and told her I'd be working remotely for 2 weeks, stating it was an urgent family matter. She understood. She rearranged my schedule. I packed another bag. Before leaving, my apartment manager called again, saying there was a young woman downstairs with a small child, claiming to be my sister-in-law. I felt cornered. These people wouldn't stop. I told the apartment manager to send her up. I decided to confront this situation. I was tired of hiding, of running. The only way to end this endless harassment was to confront them, no matter the cost. The woman who knocked on my door looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes, holding a sleeping baby on her shoulder. "I'm Maya," she said softly, "Leo's wife. I came alone because I wanted to talk to you without family drama." Reluctantly, I let her in, offered her water, which she gratefully accepted. Maya placed her sleeping daughter on my couch, covered her with a blanket, then sat down at my kitchen table and began to speak. "I only found out about you 3 years ago," she confessed. "Leo told me you ran away when you were 16, cut off all contact with the family. I always found it strange, but I never pushed. Hearing your online interview was a shock. I confronted him, and he finally confessed the truth. I just listened, not knowing what to believe anymore." Maya seemed sincere. "I was horrified by what they did to you," she continued. "I insisted Leo reach out to you, but I never imagined they would ask you for money. I'm ashamed and angry about that. Yes, I need surgery for my thyroid condition, but we have insurance. It's your parents who are in financial trouble, not us." I asked her why she came. She looked me directly in the eyes. "You deserve to know the whole truth," she said. "Your parents were telling everyone that you abandoned the family, that you were mentally unstable, that you stole money from them before you disappeared, that they searched for you for years. It was all lies told to cover up what they did." I felt like I had been hit by a heavy punch. The expression on her face, the tremor in her voice, confirmed everything. "How do you know this is true?" She pulled out her phone, showing me social media posts from years ago. My mother asking for prayers for her missing daughter. My father claiming I had taken their savings before I disappeared. Posts about hiring private investigators, checking homeless shelters. It was all carefully crafted to make themselves look like victims, all years after they had abandoned me. As I looked at each post, a wave of icy rage rose in my heart. They hadn't just abandoned me, they had stolen my honor. Maya apologized for unknowingly being a part of it, said she had confronted our parents too, and that they confessed everything when she threatened to tell the whole truth to the family, that they were desperate now my online interview had caused people to ask questions they couldn't answer. Just then, her daughter woke up, a cute little girl with curly hair. "This is Alara," Maya said softly. "She's 3. I have another daughter on the way. I want my children to know their aunt, but only if you want that too. No pressure, no guilt, just an open door if you ever choose to walk through it." These words nurtured a new hope within me. After they left, I sat in my apartment for hours thinking about what had happened. I called Alara again, telling her what Maya had said. She wasn't surprised that abusers often controlled the narrative. "They create alternative realities where they are the victims," she explained. She asked me what I wanted to do. Honestly, I didn't know. How to cope with this new reality, how to reconstruct the past. If you've watched this video so far, share with me in the comments what this story means to you. Every comment gives me strength on this journey. That night, another email came from my father. This one was different. Angry, threatening. He said if I lied about them online, they would sue me for defamation, that they had proof I stole money from them, that if I didn't remove the online interview and make a public apology, they would tell their side to the media, and that they expected financial compensation for their damaged reputation. I forwarded the email to Alara, and then to my lawyer, David. He called immediately. "This is an empty threat," he assured me. "Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. Keep everything but don't reply. If they actually sue, I'll handle it, which I doubt. People who really intend to sue usually don't announce it beforehand." The next day, a call came from Leo. I let it go to voicemail. He was in a panic. "Ava, Maya told me she visited you. Our parents are furious. Now they're saying horrible things about her too. I'm scared. They're going to try something desperate. Please call me on Maya's phone, not mine." I didn't know what to believe anymore. I called David again. He suggested meeting with Leo and Maya in a public place, with him present as their lawyer, just to listen to them. I reluctantly agreed. We set up a meeting for the next day at a restaurant near David's office. They arrived on time, both looking bad, stressed, tired. Maya had a bruise on her arm, which she constantly tried to hide. Leo couldn't make eye contact. "I'm David, Ava's lawyer," he said when we sat down, which startled Leo. But we sat, ordered coffee, and they started talking. The story that unfolded was worse than I could have imagined. Our parents had been living off Leo for years, coming and going from his house, taking money for emergencies, criticizing his parenting while taking care of his children. When Maya confronted them about me, my father had grabbed her arm so hard it bruised. Leo had kicked them out. Now they were staying in a motel, constantly calling, showing up at his workplace. I listened without interrupting, watching my brother break down as he described how our parents had controlled him his whole life, how they convinced him I had abandoned them, how he was too scared to question their version, how he had been trapped in their web of manipulation and lies for 11 years, how horrified he was that they would harm Maya or the children. This showed that not only Leo, but our entire family, even those who stayed away from me, were subjected to their manipulation. David asked careful questions about financial entanglements, house deeds and bank accounts, whether our parents had keys to their house. Leo answered everything. He said they had co-signed their mortgage, that his father still had access to his bank account since college, that they had spare keys, that they knew all his passwords. David took notes, glancing at me occasionally. By the end of the meeting, I felt exhausted but clearer. This wasn't just about me anymore. Leo and Maya were also victims in their own way, different from me but still trapped. David suggested they talk to their own lawyers, gave them a colleague's card, and told them to change their locks, passwords, and bank accounts immediately. They nodded, stunned but grateful. As they left, Leo hugged me. This time, I hugged him back. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was something. It was an acknowledgement that we had both been hurt by the same people, that perhaps we could help each other heal. In that moment, the first real hope for the future bloomed inside me. That night, a growing string of incoherent messages came from our parents' numbers. Accusations, threats, guilt trips. I blocked them all. Then I called Maya, asking if they were safe. Yes, she said. We changed the locks, stayed at friends' houses tonight. We're looking into a restraining order. I was relieved, but still worried. The next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. It was Maya. Hysterical. They broke into our house, she sobbed. They took Alara's baby photos, important documents, Leo's laptop. They left a note saying, "Family matters, stay in the family." I told her to call the police immediately, said I'd meet them at their house on my way, and called David. When I arrived, there was a police car in front of their house, an officer taking a statement in the living room. The house was a mess, drawers pulled out, papers strewn everywhere. Leo was sitting on the couch, his head in his hands. Maya was showing the officer the missing items. I introduced myself as family and said I was there to help. The officer seemed skeptical about the grandparents entering the house. Couldn't they have used a key? He asked. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maya showed him her bruised arm, described their escalating behavior, the threats, how they were stalking them. He took notes, but didn't seem convinced, saying it would be hard to prove who did it without evidence. After the police left, we cleaned up together, finding more missing items. Photo albums, financial documents, a spare car key. Leo looked devastated. "This is my fault," he said. "I should have protected my family better. I should have stood up to them years ago. I should have found you sooner." I didn't agree, but I didn't press the issue. We were past that stage now. David arrived as we were finishing up, looking grimly around, saying this changed things, that we needed to document everything, that breaking and entering was a serious crime, that we needed to stay somewhere else for a few days, that he would help us get an emergency restraining order. We nodded, too tired to argue. While Maya packed bags for them, Leo and I secured the house as best we could. We changed the locks again, checked the windows, discussed security cameras. Taking these precautions against our own parents felt surreal but also necessary. They had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. As we were leaving, Leo got a message from our father. Just 3 words. "We're watching you." He showed it to me with trembling hands. I took a screenshot, sent it to David. Then I made a decision. I told them they were staying with me. Seeing their desperation sparked a wave of anger and protection in me. Now I had to protect not only myself, but them too. My apartment had security cameras, a doorman who knew he shouldn't let my parents in. They gratefully accepted. That night, the 4 of us ate takeout in my living room. Alara played with the toys Maya had packed. Then we talked quietly about the next steps: restraining orders, police reports, changing phone numbers and email addresses, moving to a new home, how to protect themselves long term. This wasn't the family reunion I had imagined, sitting with my brother who let me be abandoned, his wife who believed the lies about me, and their daughters who were innocent in all of this. But somehow it felt right, as if we were finally facing the truth together, as if perhaps we could build something new from the ashes of what our parents had destroyed. In that moment, the shadows of the past seemed to lighten a little. Even though we were hurt, we were together, and this was a glimmer of hope for the future. The next morning, David called, saying he had gotten emergency restraining orders for all of us, that we'd have to go to court next week to make them permanent, that he had also reported the breaking and entering to a detective he knew, who was taking the case more seriously than the initial responding officers, and that we needed to stay together until this was resolved. I agreed. I called my assistant, telling her I'd be working from home for an indefinite period, citing an urgent family matter. She understood. She rearranged my schedule. I set up a workspace for Leo in my guest room. He needed to work remotely too. Maya and Alara took over my living room, building pillow forts, watching cartoons. It was strange having people in my space. I had lived alone for years. I liked my quiet routines, my clean counters, my empty sink. At first, I was looking for a shadow that wasn't my own around every corner. But over time, these new sounds, this new life, began to fill the emptiness inside me. There was a comfort in the noise too, in Alara's laughter, in Maya's quiet humming as she folded laundry, in the sound of Leo typing from the other room. This felt like family. Not the family that abandoned me, but perhaps the family we could be. If you too have found family in unexpected places in your life, share it with me in the comments. These moments inspire all of us. That afternoon, my apartment manager called, saying there was a flower delivery. I told him to check the card before sending it up. He read it to me. "We know where you all are. This isn't over." Every word pierced my heart like a cold knife. This sanctuary I thought was safe had suddenly become a fragile glass house. I told him to refuse the delivery and to call the police if the delivery person wouldn't take it back. Then I called David again. He said he would add it to the case file, that it strengthened our request for a restraining order, that we were doing everything right. I didn't mention the flowers to Leo or Maya. They were stressed enough. Instead, I ordered extra food, cooked dinner for everyone, played with Alara, trying to create some normalcy in this strange situation. But that night, after everyone was asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen and finally allowed myself to feel everything. The fear, the anger, the grief, the strange hope. I cried silently into a dish towel so no one would hear. In the morning, Maya found me making coffee, asking if I was okay. I lied, said yes. She didn't believe me. She sat on the counter. "It's okay not to be okay, Ava," she said softly. "I'm not okay either. Leo is crying in the shower where he thinks no one can hear him. Alara keeps asking when we're going home. This situation is terrifying, but I'm grateful we're facing it together." I looked at this woman, whom I barely knew, but who was somehow now a part of my life, and asked her why she came to me that first day, why she believed me despite knowing her family for years. She smiled, sadly. "I always felt something was wrong about your parents, about the stories they told, about the way they controlled Leo," she said. "Your online interview confirmed my suspicions. I couldn't let my daughters grow up thinking that abandoning a child was an acceptable thing to do." Her words were like a warm hand melting the ice within me. Behind the mask I had worn for years, I had finally found someone I could feel safe with. Then we hugged for the first time. It was awkward but genuine, like a beginning. It wasn't exactly friendship, not yet, but it was understanding, solidarity, a shared determination to break this cycle of abuse that had wounded us all. The next few days settled into a routine. Working, cooking, playing with Alara, checking in with David, jumping at unexpected sounds, flinching when phones rang. Living in a strange limbo of domestic normalcy and underlying tension. We were safe, but not peaceful. Together, but still healing. Family, but still learning what that meant. On the last day of the week, word came from David. The detective had found evidence. Security camera footage from a nearby location near Leo's house showed our parents' car parked there at the time of the break-in. The restraining order hearing was set for the beginning of next week. He was confident we would get approval. We were all relieved, but still anxious, still waiting for the next escalation. It came that night. A brick was thrown through the window of Leo's car in the parking lot. No note this time. None was needed. The message was clear. The building security camera footage showed a man in a baseball cap, his face carefully turned away from the cameras. We couldn't prove it was our father, but we all knew. We filed another police report, added it to our case file. We tried not to let Alara see how scared we were. By the end of the weekend, we had a plan for court. What to wear, what to say, what evidence to bring, how to explain our family history without seeming crazy, how to make the judge understand the escalation of events, how to protect ourselves legally and physically. Talking about our parents this way felt surreal, as if we were talking about dangerous strangers, but strangers who shared our DNA. As we talked, an email notification popped up on my phone, from my mother. Subject line, "Last chance." I almost deleted it without opening it, but something compelled me to open it. It was short, just a single line. "If you go to court tomorrow, you will regret it for the rest of your life." I showed it to David, who had stayed for dinner. He took a screenshot, added it to our file, told me not to reply, saying this kind of threat would only help our case. None of us slept well that night. I checked my locks, listened for sounds, wondered what our parents would do next. Whether we were overreacting, underreacting, how my life had come to this point. From an abandoned teenager to a successful businesswoman, then to someone hiding in her own apartment from the people who gave her life. The first workday of the week came with a strange calm. We dressed carefully, business attire, respectable, trustworthy. Maya arranged for a friend to watch Alara. We drove to the courthouse in separate cars, just in case. We met David outside on the steps. He looked confident, briefcase in hand, said he'd handled dozens of cases like this, that the evidence was strong, that judges took threats seriously, that we would be protected. As we walked into the courthouse, I saw them. They were standing near the entrance, looking older, smaller than I remembered. My mother saw me first, made a move towards me. My father grabbed her arm, pulled her back. They watched us pass, didn't speak, didn't try to approach, just stared with anger and something else, maybe fear. We walked past them into the building, went through security, followed David, and sat down in the correct courtroom, waiting together on a bench. I could feel my parents come in behind us, could feel them sitting on the other side of the room. I could almost hear their whispers, but I didn't turn around. I kept my eyes fixed forward, focusing on breathing. The judge called our case. We stood, walked forward, took our places. David calmly presented our evidence: the break-in, the threatening messages, the flowers, the brick, the emails, the history of abandonment and manipulation. The judge listened carefully, asked clarifying questions, looked at our parents with growing concern. When it was their turn, our parents approached the stand. No lawyer, just them. My father spoke first, claiming we were exaggerating, that they were just trying to reconnect with their family, that they hadn't broken any laws, that they loved us and wanted to make amends, that it was an exaggerated misunderstanding. The judge asked about the security camera footage, the threatening messages. My father denied everything, said the people in the footage weren't them, that their messages were misinterpreted, that they were the victims here. My mother nodded, occasionally wiping her eyes with a tissue. Then the judge asked them directly if they had abandoned me when I was 16. My father hesitated, started talking about troubled teenagers, difficult decisions, thinking they were doing their best. The judge cut him off, asked again directly, "Did you leave your minor child alone and move somewhere else?" My father looked down, mumbled something about financial difficulties. The judge's expression hardened. After listening to both sides, the judge approved our restraining orders. No contact for 3 years, no approaching our homes or workplaces, no messaging through third parties. Any violation would result in immediate arrest. My parents looked stunned, as if they couldn't believe this could happen, as if they had never faced consequences before. As we walked out of the courtroom, my mother said my name once, softly. I kept walking, didn't look back, feeling a weight lift with every step. It wasn't healing yet, but it was the beginning, the first real boundary that couldn't be crossed without serious consequences. Outside, David shook all our hands, said we did a good job, that the orders were solid, that if there were any violations to call him immediately, that he was proud of us for taking care of ourselves. We felt stunned but relieved, as if we had survived a natural disaster, blinking in the sunlight. Leo hugged me on the courthouse steps, a real hug this time. "I'm sorry, Ava," he said, his voice cracking, "for everything. For not protecting you then, for not finding you sooner, for believing their lies, for bringing this chaos back into your life." I hugged him back, told him we would be okay, that we had each other now, that we could build something new, something better. As we walked to our cars, my phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. I almost didn't check it, but when I did, a chill spread through me. It was a photo of Alara playing in her friend's backyard, unaware she was being watched. Below it were just 4 words: "This isn't over." I immediately showed the message to Leo. His face went white. He called Maya, who was already on her way to pick up Alara. I told him to meet me at my apartment. Then I called David from the car, my hands trembling so much I could barely hold the phone. He told me to forward the message to him and go straight home, that he would call the police and meet us there, that this was a clear violation of the restraining order, and to stay calm, but alert. The drive back felt endless. I kept checking my mirrors, paranoid that my parents were following me. When I finally pulled into my apartment garage, I sat in my car for a minute, just breathing, trying to compose myself before facing Leo and Maya. I needed to be strong right now. I found them in my apartment, Maya holding Alara tightly, as if she might disappear. The poor child looked confused and scared. Leo was pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair. I showed them the message. Maya started to cry, saying they were watching her baby, that if anything happened to Alara, she would never forgive herself. Leo hugged both of them, looking more determined than I had ever seen him. David arrived 20 minutes later with 2 police officers. They took our statements, looked at the message, made a few phone calls, said they would send a patrol car to the friend's house, try to trace the number, and increase patrols around my apartment. They said all the right things, but I could feel that they didn't fully understand how dangerous my parents could be, how unpredictable, how desperate. After the police left, We sat in my living room, trying to figure out the next steps. Maya suggested going to a hotel under different names. Leo thought we should go to his cousin's house in another state. I just sat there, getting angrier by the minute. This was ridiculous. We had done everything right, followed all the legal channels, gotten our restraining orders, and they were still terrorizing us, controlling our lives with fear. Suddenly, I stood up. I'm tired of running, I said. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of letting them dictate my life. They already stole my childhood. I'm not giving them my adulthood, too. Leo looked at me like I was crazy. What are you planning to do? I didn't know yet, but I knew we couldn't keep living like this. That night, while the others slept, we took turns on watch. I took the first shift by my living room window, all the lights off, watching the street below. Around 2 a.m, after midnight, I saw a familiar car, my father's old, beat-up vehicle. It circled the block 3 times, then parked on the opposite side of the street. I took a photo with my phone, then woke Leo. We watched together, my father sitting in his car, just staring at my apartment. He wasn't approaching, not technically violating the restraining order, just letting us know he was there, watching us, waiting. In the morning, I sent the photos to David. He said it was concerning, but not technically a violation, because my father stayed in his car, away from the building, told us to keep documenting everything. Said he had spoken to the detective again. I felt frustrated. The legal system had its limits. Restraining orders were just pieces of paper. They couldn't stop someone determined to cause harm. Maya and Leo decided to take Alara to a hotel for a few days, one with interior hallways and good security. I helped them pack, hugged them, promised to check in every few hours. After they left, I sat in my empty apartment, strangely calm, as if I had reached a decision point, as if I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I called Alara, told her everything, asked her what she thought I should do. She was silent for a minute, then asked me a tough question. What do you actually want from your parents? Not what I don't want, not what I'm afraid of, but what I actively want. After I hung up, I made a list. What I wanted. 1. To live without fear. 2. To have a relationship with my brother and his family. 3. To stop feeling responsible for my parents' actions. 4. To be free from the past. There was no reconciliation with my parents on my list, no forgiveness, no understanding why they did what they did. I just wanted them out of my life. That afternoon, I did something crazy. I sent my parents a short email. I know you're watching my apartment. I also know you won't stop, so let's talk one last time tomorrow at noon at the old cafe downtown. Just me, no police, no lawyers. After that, leave all of us alone forever. I hit send before I could change my mind. I didn't tell Leo or Maya. I didn't tell David or Alara. This was something I had to do for myself, on my own. I wasn't naive enough to think my parents would suddenly become reasonable people, but I needed to confront them on my terms, say what was in my heart, and end this cycle once and for all. My father replied within minutes, "We'll be there." No threat, no guilt trip, just confirmation. I spent the rest of the day preparing, not physically but mentally. I thought about what I wanted to say, what they needed to hear, what boundaries I needed to set. That night, I slept surprisingly well, as if making a decision had lifted a burden from me. The next morning, I dressed carefully, not to impress them, but just to feel strong and confident. I took a private car to the cafe, arriving 15 minutes early. I chose a table in the back corner where I could see the door, but wouldn't be immediately visible from outside. I ordered a coffee I didn't really want, just sat and waited. Surprisingly calm. They arrived exactly at noon, looking older, more tired than they had in court. My mother saw me first, nudged my father. They walked slowly towards me, as if approaching a wild animal that might bolt. They sat across from me without speaking. We just looked at each other for a long moment. These strangers who were my parents. These people who had shaped me in ways they would never understand. I spoke first. I didn't call this meeting to reconcile, to give you money, or to listen to excuses, I said. I called it so you could understand one thing. It's over. You didn't just lose the court case. You lost me. You lost Leo. You lost your grandchildren. You lost your chance to be a part of our lives. And if you can't accept that, if you try to follow us, threaten us, break in again, I will destroy you. My father started to interrupt. I held up my hand. I'm not finished. Then I pulled out my phone, showed them screenshots of all their threatening messages, Alara's photo, the emails. I've sent copies to everyone in your lives. Your siblings, your church, your neighbors, your employers, everyone. Not yet, but if you contact any of us again, approach our homes, or mention our names to anyone, I will. My mother started to cry. We just want our family back. We made mistakes, but we deserve another chance. We're getting old, and we don't want to die alone. I looked at her for a long moment. You should have thought about that before you abandoned your 16-year-old daughter, before you lied about everyone, before you broke into Leo's house, before you threatened your own grandchild. My father got angry then. You're ungrateful. You've always been difficult. You turned your brother against us. You owe us for raising you. I actually laughed, right in his face. Oh, right? You expect gratitude for doing the bare minimum of parenting for 16 years before you completely abandoned me? You think your parenting was so great that I should thank you for it? There was no answer to that. He just sat there, red-faced, silent. My mother was still crying, but I felt nothing. No guilt, no sympathy, just a cold clarity that these people would never change, would never take responsibility, would never be the parents I deserved. I stood up to leave. This is your final warning. The next time you violate the restraining order, I won't just call the police. I will make sure everyone you know understands what kind of people you are. If you force my hand, I have the resources to make your lives very difficult. I don't want to do that, but I will to protect my family, my real family, Leo, Maya, Alara, the people I choose. As I walked away, my mother said my name, just once, softly. I kept walking, didn't look back. I felt lighter than I had in years. With every step, I felt a weight lift. From the sidewalk I was walking on, I called Leo, told him everything. At first, he was upset that I met them alone, then worried they might retaliate, but mostly, he seemed relieved that someone had finally stood up to them directly, wishing he had the courage to do it years ago. I went back to my apartment, packed a bag, decided to join Leo and his family at the hotel they were staying at for a few days, just to be safe. When I got there, Alara ran to me, hugging me. "Auntie Eva," she called out for the first time. I almost cried. Maya hugged me too, said she was proud of me, hoped I would finally find some peace. Leo just squeezed my shoulder, no words needed. We spent the next few days in a strange limbo, waiting for our parents' next move, constantly checking our phones, jumping at unexpected sounds. But nothing happened. No calls, no messages, no emails, no sightings of their car. Just silence. A week later, Leo and Maya decided to go home, changed all their locks again, installed security cameras, and planned to put their house up for sale, starting to look for places closer to my city. I went back to my apartment too, went back to work, back to something that resembled normal life. 2 weeks passed, then a month. Nothing from my parents. David checked in regularly, said the detective confirmed they had returned to their old residence, that the restraining orders were still in effect, and that we needed to remain cautious, but try to move on with our lives. Slowly, we did. Leo found a new job in my city. Maya enrolled Alara in preschool. They bought a house a short distance from my apartment. Every weekend we had dinner, started new traditions, new memories, building a new family based on choice rather than obligation. I expected to feel something about my parents. Maybe grief, maybe guilt, maybe anger, but mostly I felt relief. As if I had finally let go of a heavy burden I had been carrying since I was 16, as if I could finally focus on the future instead of the past. 6 months after our confrontation at that downtown cafe, I received a letter from my mother, forwarded through David, so my address would remain private. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. It was short, just a few paragraphs. This time, there were no excuses, no demands, just an acknowledgement that they had deeply hurt me, that they had failed as parents, that they understood why I wanted nothing to do with them, that they were getting counseling, and that they would respect the restraining orders. They hoped that one day I might be willing to offer a proper apology, but stated they would understand if that day never came. I showed the letter to Leo, who had received a similar one. That night at dinner, we talked about it, whether it was sincere, if it changed anything, if we could ever trust them again. We didn't come to a conclusion, just decided to live day by day, to prioritize our healing, to protect the family we were building. I keep the letter on my desk, not because I'm ready to forgive, not because I want to reconcile, but because it represents something important. My parents finally acknowledging my right to set boundaries, my right to choose who I let into my life, my right to define family on my own terms. This letter was the first real step after years of their manipulation. Last week, Alara had her 4th birthday party. Leo and Maya invited me to help plan it. We had the party at my apartment, balloons everywhere, a cake I ordered from a fancy bakery, presents piled on the coffee table, Alara running around in a princess dress, laughing. Maya was taking pictures. Leo was grilling on my balcony. Friends stopped by throughout the day. There was so much noise, so much joy. At one point, I slipped into the kitchen to be alone, just watching from the doorway. I watched Leo swing Alara in circles, Maya laugh at something a friend said. My apartment, once so empty and quiet, filled with life and love. In that moment, I felt an indescribable warmth and peace within me. I thought of that note on my kitchen counter 11 years ago. Save yourself. And I had. Not in the way they meant, but I had understood what family should be, what love should look like, everything I deserved all along. Now, I'm not saying everything is perfect. I still have trust issues. I still go to therapy every week. I still sometimes have nightmares about abandonment. I still flinch when the doorbell rings unexpectedly. But I'm healing. We're all healing something new from the broken pieces of our past. Something stronger, chosen, real. Sometimes people ask me when I'll reconcile with my parents, when I'll let them meet Alara, when I'll forgive them for what they did. I don't have the answers to those questions yet. Maybe one day? maybe never. But one thing I do know, I am no longer defined by what they did to me. I am defined by what I built afterward, by the person I chose to be, by the family I chose to create. This is my true triumph. I hope this story has given you strength and inspiration as you face your own challenges. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. We can enrich the story even further with your comments. See you in the next story. Goodbye.